I'm Steve O'Connell, one of the justices of the Supreme Court of Florida. Now that we've met, let's go back to the 30s, when I was president of the student body at this university. You've heard about the miracle on 34th Street in New York City, and I know you're familiar with some of the Broadway and 42nd Street, Hollywood and Vine. But there's another street corner that's one of my favorites, and I'm sure that it's dear to the memory of thousands of University of Florida students. It's University Avenue and 13th Street. This miracle began in 1905 when the University of Florida moved to Gainesville from Lake City by wagon. Wagons piled high with office furniture, records, and high hopes. The beginning of a great idea, moving by wagon down a sandy road. When the University of Florida opened in Gainesville in 1905, Thomas Hall was the only building. Academic units were the College of Arts and Sciences, Agricultural Experiment Station, and the Normal School. By 1909, law and engineering had been added. In the 20s came commerce and journalism, the School of Architecture, the School of Pharmacy, and the Graduate School. When I arrived on campus in the 30s, the miracle was a little more than 2 decades in the making. The student body had grown from 135 to 2,500. The University of Florida was and is a land-grant college, and that meant military training from the beginning, with French 75mm guns, horse-drawn caissons, and parades. In the 30s, the University of Florida had a physical plant of 26 buildings, valued at $4.25 million. The buildings were red brick, covered with ivy, and nestled beneath longleaf pines 100 feet tall. Boxing was a major sport in those days, and wrestling was an important minor sport. One student, who paid his way through school by boxing, was the first editor of the Florida Review, the campus literary magazine. Cheerleaders at football games were males. It was an all-male university. Polo and fencing teams were important parts of student life. Students of the 30s will never forget Gainesville, the hometown of their university. The train came into town on Main Street and passed through the heart of town. Ahead of the big game, freshmen paraded into town in their pajamas, down University Avenue and around the courthouse square. Gainesville residents knew when school had opened in the fall. The streets teemed with freshmen wearing their bright orange rat caps with the big blue F on front. The 30s at Florida were great years, and out of them came names to remember. From the Seminole Hall of Fame section, George Smathers, Charlie Bennett, the late Dan McCarty and his brother John, to name just a few. That's the way it was at the midpoint of the miracle. Then came World War II, followed by GIs on campus, coeducation at the University of Florida, appeals to the legislature for more money, the need for more teachers, more classrooms, more laboratories, more everything. The campus was busting at the seams. Education was breaking out all over. Maybe you don't believe in miracles and fairy tales, but I do, because I've seen the miracle on 13th Street in Gainesville. University Avenue and 13th Street, my favorite crossroads of the world. Let's take a look. This was the University of Florida campus when I was a student here in the 30s, and here it is today. Today, the Gainesville campus covers over 2,000 acres, 147 buildings valued at more than $100 million. There's part of the miracle You see, a jump from about $4 million to over $100 million in 30 years. Even inflation wouldn't push the value up that high. You know, some of the great universities have been 100, 200, or even 300 years in the making, but they had time to grow. Not so at the University of Florida. There was no time. My old alma mater had less than 60 years in which to become one of the great universities of the world. That's the real miracle of 13th Street. You still don't believe in miracles? Well, seeing is believing, you know. So let's take a look at Gainesville. This is University Avenue and 13th Street today. Climb aboard my magic carpet and let's take a look at the rest of this miracle from the air. This is where giant steps in education have been taken. Giant steps that have encompassed decades in a series of broad jumps. You want a closer look? That's the administration building. The library. College of Business Administration. College of Law. The Student Union. The Student Service Center. College of Medicine. Teaching Hospital. College of Engineering. College of Agriculture. College of Education. College of Arts and Sciences. College of Physical Education and Health. You should know that the University of Florida is one of only 3 universities in the nation that has engineering, medicine, and agriculture all together on the same campus, along with a strong arts and sciences college to give a liberal background to these technical areas. It's a beautiful campus, isn't it? But, you say, beautiful buildings don't make a great university. And you're quite right. For one thing, it takes serious-minded students who go to college to study. These students create a strong academic atmosphere and inspire teachers to do their best. Here's what I mean. Nighttime is work time. The library remains open until midnight these days. They study while they eat. Lights burn late in many classrooms as education goes round the clock. Students in the School of Journalism and Communications work at night, preparing and directing television shows for the university's educational station, WUFT. Journalism students begin class at 6:30 a.m. at the Gainesville Daily Sun, a modern newspaper serving as a multi-million-dollar laboratory. Architecture students spend many night hours over their drawing boards. And art students work nights at their easels. Dr. John J. Taggart, former president of the University of Florida, used to say that great students make a great university. This is still true, but a great university is also known for its great scholars, great teachers, and great research scientists. The University of Florida now has its share, attracted from the most famous institutions of the nation. I'd like for you to meet just a few of these great scholars. Only 2 men in the state of Florida belong to the National Academy of Sciences. One of these is Dr. Lester Dragstedt, formerly professor and chairman of the Department of Surgery at the University of Chicago, now research professor of surgery at the University of Florida. He is, without question, one of the most distinguished and well-known surgeons of our time. The other member of the National Academy of Sciences is Dr. John C. Slater, who joins the University of Florida faculty in September 1964. Dr. Slater is the theoretical physicist who built the present physics department at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He joins the University of Florida as graduate research professor of physics and chemistry. Dr. Slater was instrumental in the post-war establishment of the Research Laboratory of Electronics and the Laboratory for Nuclear Science at MIT. He is the author of more than 100 important papers in theoretical physics. Another distinguished professor at the University of Florida is Dr. Oscar Savarlin, who is known throughout the world for his writings and legal concepts on the ownership of such unusual properties as the Arctic polar regions and even outer space. Dr. Savarlin, born in Norway, has been professor of political science at the University of Florida since 1955. One of the most distinguished philosophers in America today is Dr. Charles W. Morris of the University of Florida faculty. He has been president of the Western Division of the American Philosophical Association. He was one of the editors of the important and highly respected International Encyclopedia of Unified Science. In 1953, a book entitled Charles Morris appeared in Italy in a large series on the history of philosophy. He has lectured at most of the important universities throughout the world. Surgeons like Dr. Myron W. Wheat, Jr., assistant professor of surgery at the University of Florida, have caused the eyes of the nation to turn to Florida for tremendous advances made in the area of open heart surgery. Recently, Dr. Wheat and 2 colleagues made history by replacing a 4.5-inch portion of the aorta, the large artery coming from the heart, with a piece of plastic tubing. They also put in an artificial valve for a defective one. Today, the patient is enjoying good health. You want to know how the University of Florida ranks with other universities? Well, it's one of 36 universities with more than 1 million volumes in its library. The School of Journalism and Communications was ranked 2nd in the nation this year by the William Randolph Hearst Foundation for the writing ability of its students. University of Florida graduates, in competition nationally with graduates of other universities and colleges, rank substantially above the national average on medical college admission tests and the nationally administered law school admissions test. Of the University of Florida students commissioned by the Army through ROTC, 51% rank in the upper 1/3 of their classes in the various service schools they attend in the Army. The University of Florida ranks 11th in the nation as a supplier of graduates to the Foreign Service, a field for which the government sets a high personal and academic standard. This high ranking has been achieved despite the fact that many universities in this ranking have schools of international affairs for this specialized training, while the University of Florida candidates for Foreign Service represent but one facet of the political science department. Every graduate of the university's College of Education made a satisfactory score on the National Teachers Examination recently established as a criteria for meritorious teacher classification. Nearly 500 employers visit the campus each year to recruit Florida graduates, and their reports on the quality of the graduates they interview and hire express high praise for the young people they find at the University of Florida. The quality of research conducted by the University of Florida faculty is demonstrated by the ability of faculty members to attract financial sponsorship of this research by foundations, industry, and government. In 1963, the University of Florida ranked 17th in the nation in the dollar volume of sponsored research conducted by its faculty members. And here's something else. Faculty stature is recognized and in part measured by the attraction they have to government, business, and industry as professional consultants. More than 200 businesses, municipalities, and government agencies each year use the faculty of the University of Florida as consultants to their activities. This kind of recognition all over the nation is another phase of this miracle story. But you know, there's something else here we don't want to overlook. A great university must develop the whole man. There must be a place for fun and laughter and relaxation. For as they say, all work makes Jack a dull boy. The rolling hills of the university's 18-hole golf course beckon students morning and afternoon and weekends, as do the tennis courts and handball courts. Then there's the outdoor swimming pool used year-round, and the university recreation area at Camp Warburg on one of Florida's most beautiful lakes. Of course, there's football. The Fighting Gators of Florida are always strong contenders in the Southeastern Conference, the conference of great football. And football means homecoming, parades, barbecues, Gator Growl, the greatest student show on earth. All these are part of a great university. The whole man includes cultural man. This means chances to attend concerts like that of the Philadelphia Symphony Orchestra performing on campus. It means art exhibits. It means a chance to browse in the bookshops and reading rooms of the library, or listen to good music in the soundproof record rooms. Training the whole man means learning about democracy and self-government. Student government at the University of Florida is the finest in the nation. Students elect their own officers, administer hundreds of thousands of dollars in student fees, and administer justice through the honor court. You know, one of the greatest parts of this miracle is the way an institution like the University of Florida serves the people of Florida. Did you ever stop to think that this long black line has been moving out year after year for almost 6 decades, bringing leadership and new ideas to every nook and cranny of the state? A state thrives and grows on people with ideas, people who do things, who know how to do things. There isn't a person in Florida who doesn't benefit every day from research that came from the University of Florida. When you drink a glass of water, it was purified through knowledge developed at the university. When you eat beef, it may have come from some of Florida's improved herds, raised on pasture grasses developed at the university. Scientists at the university are at work on new ways to save Florida's beaches from being washed into the sea for the everlasting benefit of residents and tourists alike. When you ride over bridges like the famous Sunshine Skyway, you ride on pre-stressed concrete beams developed at the University of Florida. Almost any food product you eat in Florida may have had its origin in one of the many experimental farms that stretch up and down the entire length of the peninsula. And so, the university continues to serve so that Floridians may enjoy the good life. But what about tomorrow? How will the university serve tomorrow? Here's a scale model of just a portion of the university campus. Here's the new $5 million student union building. Groundbreaking ceremonies have been held, and this fabulous structure is already underway. Today, the University of Florida houses 50% of its student body in dormitories, fraternity and sorority houses, and more of these beautiful homes for students are in the future. The new home of the College of Architecture and Fine Arts will be a Florida showplace. Expansion of the College of Engineering facilities, provided for in the bond issue, is getting underway, and construction is expected to begin on 7 and possibly 8 buildings by March of 1965. A 3-unit complex will go up on Center Drive to house aerospace, electrical, and chemical engineering facilities. The new hydraulics research laboratory will be built on North-South Drive, and a bioenvironmental research center will go on Radio Road. The Bioenvironmental Research Center will deal with air pollution, stream pollution, and other research areas that bring human health and engineering into your future in Florida. As enrollments rise, more and more classroom, laboratory, and library space is needed. This new graduate research library should be completed in a couple of years to provide additional space for the university's rapidly growing library collections. You can be sure, as the years move along, the University of Florida will play a bigger and more important role in your future in Florida, possibly a highly dramatic role. For example, a part of your future arrived recently at the University of Florida in the form of a cobalt-60 irradiator. Experiments performed with this equipment will provide ways of keeping Florida's fresh fruits and vegetables fresh and tasty indefinitely. Scientists call this prolonging the shelf life of these products. That means we can store them at home for long periods of time without freezing them. It means they will remain at the supermarket for a long time without spoiling. This can mean millions of dollars in savings to farmers and merchants. And you know, University of Florida scientists are now listening in on the goings-on in outer space. They use gigantic antennas like these to capture radio waves. Recently, Dr. Alex G. Smith, University of Florida radio astronomer, startled colleagues of the American Physical Society in Washington with his discovery that Jupiter seemed to have drastically slowed its spin by 1 3/10 seconds. Dr. Smith wants to know why Jupiter's pace slowed. He says radio waves coming from Jupiter are strong enough to be used to guide space probes to that planet. And so, that's the story of my favorite crossroads, University Avenue and 13th Street in Gainesville, a place that makes Floridians stand tall with pride. It's a place for the born and the unborn, a place where generations of Floridians are educated to help other generations yet unborn. The long black line moving out from Gainesville to cover Florida with its youth, its strength, its knowledge until the end of time.